I assume he can't hear us right now. He's off the scene, maybe.
Yeah, must not be.
Maybe, but I guess we can chat in the background. Personally, this is
Stream
Sam. Stream
Did
Deck.
you lose me? Here I am.
Stream Deck.
Sorry
We
about
did
that.
lose you, Tom, and we got you back.
Yeah, I've got a trigger somewhere that does that, and I got to figure out what it is.
Stream Deck or X keys?
X keys.
Old school. Cool.
Old school. Yeah.
I've got my Stream Deck with me on my sofa right now.
Sam, have you got to where you don't even travel without it? I actually have an extra one in my backpack.
Love that, man. Yeah, I love that. It is part of what comes in the rucksack no matter what. The amount of holes it's filled over the years.
Oh, yeah. Use it with companion?
Yeah, absolutely. That was, I think, so I was a big Just Macros X keys guy before Companion came along.
Yeah.
So I wrote, well, my team and I wrote a vMix integration into X keys so we could control the Blackmagic stuff, but then we could also control vMix as well from X keys, and that was obviously a lifesaver for our workflow. And then Companion came along, and I was like, well, I'm now going to save about 10 hours a week from making paper labels and cutting them out with X keys.
Oh, yeah, no kidding.
It's honestly the only reason why I changed. That's the only work, because we were doing a lot of shows per week. We were rotating our studio around multiple times per week for different white label productions. And it was genuinely a consideration of our working day of how long it took to create these paper labels. It's kind of silly when you think about it, but it was a big deal. It was a big piece of time to create the bloody labels. It's rather funny. I wonder if X Keys are looking at Stream Deck going, should we do this? Should we add screens to our X Keys?
I think they missed the boat.
I think so. I mean, it'd be difficult to make a device. I know that X Keys are not the cheapest of device what they are, because I guess their manufacturing is quite low numbers right now. Whereas Stream Deck's got mass market and just an unbeatable price. It's pretty difficult.
Yeah, whenever you're in a consumer market, it's a whole different world.
Yeah, but also in a consumer market, but also understanding and having the respect for a sub-market being us broadcasters. It's an incredible combination because they do listen, you know, Companion have first-party access to the Stream Deck team, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I just keep waiting for them to figure out a better way to integrate with the TriCaster. I've been pushing hard on
the Companion guys.
Companion group. Yeah, the Companion guys. And my audio went away. Background noise.
Hey, you.
And we're back.
There we go. Well, you know what? We're just in pre-show. We are live in pre-show right now. So it is one of those situations where they say it is what it is. Sam, do they say that in the UK? It is what it is.
We do say it is what it is. That one does translate across. Are we live, by the way, Tom? Is this us live to the internet?
I'm sorry, say again?
Is this us live at the moment, Tom, to the internet?
That must be one of those British sayings, that, like the boot.
No, I mean, as I'm asking, are we live?
Are we live? Yes, yes, we are live in what we call pre-show. Pre-show.
Love it.
And we need to get a web browser going here. That one's what we need right there. Okay. And if you guys want to follow the comments, I used to have a URL that I could send you to, but now you're just going to have to go to the easternshorebroadcasting.com.
Testing 1 2, testing 1 2.
There he is. All right.
Ah, that's much better.
Much better. Much better.
Sorry about that. I have a very elaborate setup here, testing all sorts of stuff. Now and then shit doesn't work, so sorry about that.
I get that. I get that. Not a problem. Not a problem. We are live. And we're live in what we call the pre-show. And it is your first name pronounced Floris? Floris?
Yeah, that'll be fine. Make it Floris, a short O.
Floris, short O. And Floris, can you pronounce your last name for me?
Oh, just try something like Dalmans.
Okay.
Dalmans.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And is there a company name that you would like for me to put underneath you?
Yes, make that VRT, Video Snack Bar.
Okay. VRT, is that all caps?
Yeah.
Okay. Snack bar, all one word?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll be fine.
All right. And do you have a URL that you would like to send me for your individual lower third?
Sure. Hang
Yeah,
on.
just right click the vMix call, and where it says open call manager down at the bottom, you can just type it right in down there.
Yeah, I had to open the web browser vMix call because I couldn't get the audio out of vMix for some reason. So
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, then
I'll
you
just
can
dump it in the chat here somewhere.
just
If you can
right in
see
the
that.
chat. Yeah, there's a chat icon down at the bottom of that vMix call window.
Mhm.
As you mouse over the window, it'll pop up a menu across the bottom, and there's a little chat, little cloud. What a coincidence! It's a cloud.
Hmm.
And Irvin, can you hear me? Hello, Irvin.
He just gave you the finger.
It's like,
The
well,
hand signals are real.
I don't know that he can hear me or not hear me. Let's see. Let's see, Irvin. I heard that.
Yeah.
There's a loose connection somewhere. And looks like we lost Sam. Sam, wherever you are, come back. Check 1, 2. And it looks like we lost Flores.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah, although I've got a good connection.
Oh,
on
just the
this end.
video.
Yeah, just the video. Okay.
Shoot.
All right. Don't worry too much. You know, the start time is kind of negotiable. We do the best we
Any
can.
good
and
broadcast has a negotiable start time.
Oh, yeah.
that's right.
Sure.
That's right. There's Sam's back. Okay, good. Good. And Flores, have we got audio for you, but no video? Is that what we've got at the moment?
Yeah, I thought I could close vMix because I wouldn't need it, but it turns out I do.
Okay. Been there only 100 times. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Honestly, putting 5 vMix users, I was going to say professionals, let's use that. 5 vMix users putting a show together. Tom, this is a terrible idea. Terrible idea.
Oh.
We're never going to get it working, are we?
No, but we're going to have a lot of fun doing it.
Here we are.
Looks like a lot of folks in the chat, both in Facebook and YouTube. So a big shout out and welcome to Guy and Rudy and Peter and Bill and Gunnar and Milos. And oops, hold on, let me get the right screen up here. And Martin and Jim and Kenny. And is Tommy here? And Chris says we can hear you. Dave's here. Kyle's here. Rich is here. Bird's
I think
here.
I'm back.
Otis. And Irvin's here. All right. Welcome. Steve's here.
Bad cable.
All right. Irvin, while we have just a few minutes left, I want to get your lower third correctly. So if you would help me out with your company name.
That's IT. So IT space helps. HELPS. I'm hearing myself twice.
Okay.
That's
I hate
me,
when
I
that
think.
happens.
Lucky you.
And Irvin, do you have a URL that you want me to do when I flash your picture across the screen of only you and only you?
ithelps.eu.
Okay.
Am I not a bit too hot? No, it looks good. Okay.
Got it. Okay. I think that'll work. And everybody with that. Flores, is there a website that we want to use when we refer to you? A URL?
Yeah, I typed it into the chat.
You did. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'll get it there. Very good.
It's the first line in the chat. Is it appropriate for me to crack open a beer, or is that not done?
Well, you know, only if you're sharing.
Well, I'd love to, but
That was quick. Wow.
we're in a lockdown situation.
Okay, I think we're good. All right, let's see. Maria's here. And RJ is here. And let's see. And TV97.net is here. Nick Pendergrass is here. Welcome, Nick. Glad to have you. Who else have we got that's watching with us today that I've missed? My apologies if I've missed giving you a shout out. Mike Bird. Okay, sorry about that, Mike. Got it. And Paul is here. Hey there, Paul. Glad to have you on. Marie says, Flores, Marie says, just pour a little beer in the USB port and we'll get it that way.
You know, with the whole Corona situation,
Make sure
we
it's-
have all these disinfectant sprays at work, and people are spraying straight into mixers and intercom devices and stuff like that. And all that stuff is breaking, obviously, because people are pouring disinfectant into the devices directly. So, not a good idea.
Yeah,
Not
but
a good idea.
they're clean.
That's right. That's right.
They are.
They're not going to
Broken,
infect
clean.
anybody. All right, let's
Just
go
make
around.
sure it's a USB 3. So we don't have to wait too long before it gets here.
That's right. Okay, I want to do one last sound test before we go, just to make sure everybody's about the same volume. So Jef, if you would give me just a sound check.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Got the Corona. Yes.
Okay, we're going to give you a little bit more volume. All right, Sam, can you give me a sound check?
All right. Hi, this is Sam. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
That's good.
7, 8, 9, 10.
Irvin, sound check.
Hi, this is Irvin C, and I try to speak normal as I normally do, but this is not normal. But I hope that check was good.
That's a good check. Flores, sound check, please, sir.
Yeah, I would count from 0 to 10 just to be in accordance with the rest, but I try to be more inspirational because I'm a radio host and I talk for a living, so I'm trying to use words and sentences.
Beautiful. Got it.
Sorry
All
about
right, you guys are dialed in. And Chris says that I need to turn up a little bit. Okay, let's see. I have an audio here. Let's see if we can't bump that up just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. All right. Everybody is on vMix call. Yes, that was a question in the chat. Again, I hope you guys will have an opportunity, Jef, Sam, Irvin, and Flores, to get access to the chat. What we'll probably do, and we're still in pre-show, if anybody's wondering, we're still in pre-show, is we're going to do the show, and I've got a kind of a script of how we're going to go through that. And then once we're done with the show, we will end the show and go to the post-show. And at that point, there'll probably be a lot of questions from folks in the audience, the viewers, the folks that are participating with us remotely. One thing and I'll just tell everybody that's watching right now, hey, Cliff, glad you're here. Tommy's here. Wow, cool, man. And Josh is here. I love it. And Jef is here. Holy cow, they're coming out of the woodwork. We are not going to concentrate very much on the how you do this. So if you came looking for the how to do it, you're probably not going to get much on that. I'll just tell you right up front. Hey, Steve, glad to have you. But we are going to concentrate on the why, the what, the when, the where, and the how is, the how is these guys' secret sauce, and we can't ask them to give away their secret sauce. So save your how. I'll just say you right now, save your how questions. Maybe we'll do a workshop later. If we do, it's going to be a $high workshop, and we're going to have some real pros in to teach you how to do that. But that is not today's show. So with that kind of preamble, I'm gonna mute all you guys. Y'all are muted. Sorry about that. And then, yeah, that's right, Irvin. And we're gonna go to the jaws of death starting. I'll do my little monologue, and then I will bring you guys in and basically ask you to introduce yourselves. Just a minute. Sam's got some props and some video and some dancing girls that he's going to use with his intro. So no pressure for you guys to come up with that at the last minute, but he kind of cheated. Anyway, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So let's see. Let's go. Let's go. Welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair. This is Streaming Idiots. I am so glad that you are here with us today. Today is going to be a treat. Today is going to be a treat of a show. Today is going to be a show that you're going to go back and watch more than once. I know I will. And I haven't even seen the show yet. No, I'm juiced. You can tell. I'm just not juice. It's just lemonade. I promise. It's just lemonade. So, really excited about today's show. We've got some great guys kind of warming up in the bullpen, getting ready to come in and talk about vMix in the cloud, vMix from the cloud, vMix of the cloud. Yeah, it's going to be vMix in cloud, and maybe we'll get into some other subjects too. But if this is important to you, grab a notepad and a pen and take notes, because you're going to want to see all this stuff later. But before we get into that, couple of quick notes. One is that obviously the Streaming Idiot show is an hour-long infomercial for my company, Eastern Shore Broadcasting. Whoops, right over there. And you can see I'm not in my regular studio today, so my hands get cut off. I'm kind of in a tight space with shadows and other things that I had to crop out. So I try not to go out of my box. Eastern Shore Broadcasting, yeah, we're vMix resellers. That's our forte. We also represent a slew of five thoughts hit my tongue at the same time. We represent a slew of other companies, and you can go to our website, easternshorebroadcasting.com, and see about that. But our real bread and butter is that we build PCs for live streaming. We've got, oh golly, I can't even count the number of ones that are in progress and some that are about ready to be shipped out right now to customers. So if you are frustrated because your store-bought PC or your self-produced PC is not doing what you need it to do, and you need a partner that knows what they're doing, shoot us an email, go to our contact page on our website. Our phone number's there. You can call us. You can shoot us an email there. But we would love to hear from you, and maybe we can help you repurpose what you've already got and not lose your investment. We've done that with a number of folks already. Coming up the end of this week, coming up on Friday, is our Zoom and vMix workshop. It's a deep dive into Zoom and vMix working together. Transferring audio back and forth between them. How to use Zoom in a vMix production, how to use vMix in a Zoom production, and that's the subject of the workshop. That QR code there in the top right-hand corner will take you to the page on our website where you can get more information and purchase a seat in the workshop. So that's the advertisement for the workshop. Oh, and I will give one more shout out. Cliff Sobel and I are doing a show tomorrow afternoon, 3 o'clock Eastern. We'll make sure we put it in Facebook and Twitter and the Eastern Shore Broadcasting page and Cliff's Streamcast Network page. But basically, we're going to talk about the effects of, what's business going to look like after this is all over. So it's going to be a PVB, post-virus business discussion. How is your business going to change? How has your business already had to change? and we'll have that discussion tomorrow afternoon. We're not sure what the show is, kind of a pilot show to see if we work together well. It's an alpha. It's an alpha show is what it is. But come on in, criticize us, ask us questions. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, now let's talk about our show for today. We have got here a whole slew of experts. Jef is here, Sam is here, Irvin is here, and Flores is here. They're coming to us, Jef from the U.S., Sam from the UK, and Irvin and Flores from Belgium. And each one of these guys has got some experience with vMix in the cloud. And I'll tell you how much experience I've got with vMix in the cloud. You know, there it is right there, a big goose egg. Sam, do they use goose egg in the UK? Do y'all talk about zeros as being goose eggs?
What's a goose?
Yeah, exactly. Well, what's a goose? But let's go around real quick. Jef, since you're up on the top row with me, let's go first. If you just introduce yourself and tell a little bit about yourself and your company.
Well, I'm Jef Kethley, and I'm actually from Texas, Southeast Texas, outside of Houston. My company name is PIZAZZ, and we are basically a system integrator and a production house all in one. I have a separate company that does most of the production, and it specializes in live sports, hence the name Live Sports. But we basically play on both sides of the coin, I guess you would say, but solutions we create for ourselves usually end up being devices that we sell or solutions that we sell.
Awesome. Thank you, Jef. Sam, tell us about you.
Cool. Hi, everyone. I did a thing, which is some photos of what I do. I'm an esports broadcast producer, so my life is working around the world, producing esports productions all over the world, both from a technical aspect, so I really love to work on the technical architecture that makes esports broadcasting pretty unique. We often face some pretty technical challenges in what we have to do. There's some cables there, just a few. And also I work on the content side of it as well. So I also direct broadcast. I'm a content producer as well. So what I love most is being able to tie everything together, finding technical answers for pretty complex content questions and then making a show out of it. It's awesome. So that is really my life is esports broadcasting. And what's been interesting the last few weeks is taking that knowledge that I've had to build up in the last 4 or 5 years of esports broadcast physical events and port it into this new idea of virtual broadcasting. So pleasure to be here, Tom, and thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Sam. Appreciate that. Irvin, welcome. Glad to have you, sir. What's going on?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me on the show today. It's the first time, so that's a good thing I'm on your show. Woo! But I'm some bad news. I'm not that specialist you announced me to be. I'm just more of a streaming idiot number, I think we're with 6, is that right? So number 6. So I have an IT company, so I mainly do IT stuff for my clients, which are small businesses. And usually on site, physical servers, a bit like you have with your computers. But I'm moving on to Azure right now. I followed a lot of trainings on Azure lately. And I was thinking about launching a vMix system into Azure to see what it works and how it works. And I've been doing that the last couple of days, especially for you, Tom. And I just wish to share my streaming idiot experience with that, with some network know-how and how the cloud works and what things you need to take care of. But I just done my first vMix installation in the cloud, so I'm here to share that mistakes I done.
All right. Very good. Very good. Glad to have you. Flores, welcome, sir. Tell me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. 2 Belgians on 1 American show. What a treat. I
maybe.
do think I'm the only person that has a beer at hand at this point. So true Belgian right here. I'm an innovation researcher for VRT, which is one of the public broadcasters here in Belgium. My background is originally in radio. I'm a radio presenter for Radio 1 here in Belgium, but I'm also a researcher for the innovation department. And what we have in that department is several subdivisions that do several kinds of innovation research for the broadcast industry in Belgium. I'm in a small hub called Video Snack Bar, and we try to develop new ways of producing video, originally for the web, but more and more also for regular television. And we've been doing that in the cloud for a while now, and since the COVID-19 situation, the demand for that has grown significantly. So our division is quite busy since the last few weeks of the Corona situation.
Very good. Very good. Glad to have you guys. I really do appreciate you taking time to come out today. What I'd like to do is start out with each one of you guys sort of describing a use case. You know, what would be a typical broadcast from the cloud? Specifically, obviously, we want to include vMix if we can. But it's different than broadcasting here, like from my studio in teeny little Fairhope, Alabama, where we can't even get fiber internet. You know, Jeff's got fiber. That's not fair. Jef, you know, share with us, if you will, kind of a use case that you guys. And again, we're talking about the what, the where, the when, and
Sure.
and the why. But we're going to leave the how for a later date.
Well, in a nutshell, we've been doing remote production actually for quite a few years. And I say we as in my sports side of the business. With most of our broadcasts, we were going out and sending a crew. They were operating somewhere. It was mostly professional tennis. And so we would go out, set up a crew. They would have 5, 6 people, maybe as many as 7 or 8, depending on the size of the event, of people there set up. They were operating cameras. They would swap off and come back and do the switcher for a while. They would just basically rotate around. What we found, though, was we were getting a lot of burnout because there were very long days. And so I started looking at other options to not only just to save in the travel time, and the burnout wasn't necessarily from the time on site, but it was the travel away, right? So we started looking at other options, and I invested quite a bit of money in a company called Mark Roberts, which has robotics, and it's not quote PTZs, it's actually robotics. And so the motion, the fluidity is just amazing. And we worked with them for quite a while to get them back into some tweaks for us in our sports that we need, certain speeds and things like that, and smoothness that we need in every day. Well, that basically translated, it's IP controlled. So the next step was, okay, we're not just working it from the production truck, we're actually working it from our offices. And then we moved it another step is now we're working from our homes. And so we have some people, my crew, my normal full-time employees are spread everywhere from Louisiana, Texas, Georgia. I've got a couple guys that are spread out just as freelancers at times too. So whenever we need them, we just basically say, call them and say, hey, jump on. Now, that's just camera operation pretty much right now. Well, it was last year. Now we moved that into full production. So it's now moved to where we're actually doing the full production. And it's like, okay, well, this remoting in and things like that into the switchers back at the master control or on site, so that we didn't have to pull so much bandwidth. We were just doing the remote control of the switcher on site. But then it moved to the next step. It's like, okay, how can we do this and duplicate it more? That's where the cloud comes in. So now that we can take our same kit, the exact same kit that's on site, and duplicate it, and duplicate it, and duplicate it. And now we can do more jobs. We can make more money because we can do more events at one time. That's one of the bigger advantages of cloud.
Yeah, holy cow. Now, well, all right, I got to come back to you on that one. You gave me so much to chew on, but right. I don't want to ignore the rest of the crew. Sam, if you would, describe for us, a use case for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my world, of course, is doing physical events in esports, and typically our video sources in esports are a mix of traditional camera feeds, like you'd expect from any sporting presentation, but also mixed with a fair chunk of game feeds as well. So, if I look at an event like this was an event I did last year where we had about 80 players on stage, loads of stuff going on, these big arenas. And people are expecting these events to be replicated online now because we've still got the players from home. Players can take part in esports broadcasts from their bedrooms. That's not a problem. So the tournament side of esports has actually remained quite unaffected by the current scenario we find ourselves in with coronavirus. But the broadcasting side, for me, that changes a lot. So with vMix, of course, one of the reasons I love vMix is the versatility of the inputs it has. Obviously, it can accept any number of physical feeds you can plug into a computer, or more importantly, remote feeds, whether that's vMix Cool, whether that's RTMP streams, whether that's capturing video from a web browser. This gives me plentiful means in order to capture this remote gameplay from our players at home and mix it into a show. So vMix Call for me has been amazing at bringing in our remote guests. If I've got, let's say, an expert panel or some commentators, vMix Call is the solution for that. And then if I'm looking at bringing gameplay feeds in to replicate these broadcasts, using an RTMP incoming stream, for example, is a great solution. But the benefit is that there's, I've put vMix on a cloud server in London at the moment. There's no reliance on my home internet to make this happen. Normally, I'd have to have all of these remote signals being downloaded by my home internet in sunny Bath in the UK. Not in the Bath, there's a city called Bath. So I'd have all these signals coming in downloaded to my house, and then obviously uploading that finished video to wherever the end destination is, YouTube, Facebook, whatever. By having vMix hosted in the cloud, that takes all the reliance off my home internet and allows us to continue making shows. Equally as well, when I'm doing remote video calls, I know that the bandwidth my vMix server in London is giving them for the return signals is as good as can possibly be. My server at the moment in London is 25 gig up and down, which is mind-blowing internet speeds. I ran a speed test when I was playing with it, and I just like, poof, okay, that's quite fast, 25 gig up and down. But that's the real value for me, is that we've been able to incorporate all these remote feeds coming into us that we'd normally have physical access to on site. In esports, they've been converted to sort of IP feeds, if you like, and it's been great. So that's been the use case for me, really, is converting these live physical esports events and taking the same sources but bringing them into a vMix in the cloud. It's been a really interesting process.
That's awesome, and he's done it all from the bath. That just amazes me.
Without even leaving my bath, exactly, incredible.
I'm teasing, but that's exciting. So all right, so we've got one kind of sport over here, we've got one kind of sport over here, and Irvin is just beginning to dip his toe into the water. Irvin, tell us about what's going on. If you've got a use case you can share with us.
Well, yeah, I have a use case for myself and maybe for some colleagues. I forgot to tell you earlier on that most of you probably know me as one of the DJs, or maybe the only one in the group. I don't know. But I do stream already a very long time, about 8 or 9 or maybe 10 years already, my live streams every week. So the thing I want to see why the cloud, I was a bit reluctant because and I suppose we're going to talk about that later, is how to get your inputs all in there. So the cloud is a good thing because you have lots of speed there. You're independent of your own internet. So if your bandwidth usage has run out, like me this month, I'm at I think 2.5 gigabyte of use of my 750 I can use during daytime, streaming using 4G right now. So the thing is, you can put it all in the cloud. But with the cloud a bit, everything has to be there, or you can get the inputs in, but from different locations, because if you have to pull everything in from the same location, you're still going to have a bandwidth issue. So, and besides that, I think it's cheaper than having your own computer, and that's bad news for you, Tom. You will be selling less computers that way, but more service, I hope, for you. That is that you don't need that big investment in a computer, you know. You need a big computer, a good graphics card in it. You can only use it for that purpose, or that's the best thing to do. So if you run it in the cloud, it's going to be lots of cheaper. And I know a lot of people are going to say, "Whoa, what? The cloud is very expensive." No, it's not. It depends on the situation, and we're going to talk about that later, I suppose. You have to think, you have to think completely differently with the cloud. It's a completely other way of thinking than what we've done until now, the last 30 years, or me at least, in a physical environment, and even in local virtual environment. It's completely different. So I'm going for the small businesses and the one-man shows here, while the other guys go for the grand stuff. So I hope I can defend myself in the small world right here.
Oh, it's a great use case, and I would guess for every one Jef or every one Sam, there are 100 Irvins, and it's just it's just a scaling thing. Yeah, it's just a scaling thing. Yeah. Flores, tell us about your experience in streaming. In the cloud, from the cloud to the cloud, however we're going to describe that.
Well, we have several use cases operational at this point at VRT. One big one that we tried out is building a multi-camera switcher on a cloud machine in which you can produce a complete television show. So with stingers, lower thirds, multiple guests, a central host, all that kind of stuff. We built that in the cloud in vMix on two machines, two virtual machines, obviously. So one is something we call the Call Hub, which is a machine that just runs a vMix that does only vMix calls between the director, the presenter, the technicians. It exchanges multi-views and confidence feeds to everyone to be able to check if everything is going well in the show. And then the second machine that we run is what we call the production core at this point. It's the machine that has vMix on it, again, obviously, for the mix and the play out of the television show, with all the bits and pieces that you would expect from it. It is supported by two other programs, Touch Designer and Open Stage Control. Touch Designer is a tool that we use as a web service to be an endpoint for the vMix API calls. So vMix has a very extensive API, as you all know, that you can use via web calls. And it's the same API that vMix uses itself for its web view or its web controller. But you could use that API from whatever tool that speaks HTTP. So we built that in Touch Designer, and it's actually an interlay between, or a relay between the vMix machine and another program that is called Open Stage Control. Open Stage Control is a piece of software that enables you to build control surfaces. So, buttons, sliders, levers, all that kind of stuff. And it speaks OSC, so Open Sound Control, which is a protocol like, MIDI, for example, but a little more advanced and a little more recent than MIDI, which is something from the 80s, I think. And that panel is being exposed through a web browser to the director. So the director can live cut a show on a tablet, for example, in that Open Stage Control panel. So that panel talks to Touch Designer, and Touch Designer talks to the vMix API to do the switching, the clip starting, filling in text lines for lower thirds and that sort of stuff. So we're now able to produce a complete show from the cloud from those two machines. We use, as I said, vMix Call for the confidence monitoring and the multi-views for the director and the presenter and the technicians, to get the picture from the presenter himself in there and from the guests. We use an SRT app, something that we found online. It's called Larry's Broadcaster. It's a free app that can send SRT to a vMix machine that can receive SRT feeds. And those are of a better quality than the vMix call images are, because that is WebRTC, if I'm not mistaken. So the SRT feed is it's much clearer and much sharper, and also very low latency. So we connect hosts and the host and the guests via SRT. It's a bit of an extensive system. It is experimental, but that is what our division does. We run all these sorts of experiments, and we're very pleased with how it looks now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's amazing. All right. So, folks, you guys have kind of gotten a feel for the different flavors that we're working with, and let's dive in a little bit. Jef, as you guys made the move as you were forced to make the move, what was the biggest challenge that you had as you tried to, I guess, we're not really talking about desegregating. I mean, I'm not even sure how to describe that process. But what was the biggest challenge, kind of the biggest surprise that you had as you were going through that process?
Well, we weren't really forced. Kind of just kept jumping into it, and it became a way of just basically of us creating our business model and our workflow. And so the more and more we went down this path, it was like, okay, now I've got this solved. What's the next step? What else can we do to make things better? And so that's how it kind of developed over time. Moving to the cloud, it's a lot of the same things that the other gentleman said, is that make a difference is the unlimited bandwidth. bandwidth is basically the biggest thing, because you don't have that hiccup because, oh, I just tapped out even a 10 meg line now. I just tapped that out because I have too many feeds coming in or trying to push out too many feeds. And yes, I have a gigabit here, but at the office, but that's different than what a lot of my local production people have and things like that. So for us, going to the cloud, taking that bandwidth capabilities, just like Sam said, we have 25 megabits both ways. It's crazy to think. I'm sorry, 25 gigabits both ways. It's crazy to think
Fuel, yeah.
that we have that much bandwidth. Yeah, it's a few more zeros. It's just crazy to think that we have that much bandwidth. But all I need to get to that power in the cloud is about 500 kilobits. So TeamViewer, RDP, whatever, PC over IP, whatever you're using as your connection to the cloud, is that switcher in the cloud, and all the production in the cloud means I could get to it with a very minimal amount of bandwidth. Driving down the road doesn't matter. And I've done that way too many times than I want to. But I could pull over, log in, fix a problem, jump out, and I'm still on the way. But the same thing is, by having it all running in the cloud, if my link breaks, the world's not coming to an end. If I'm at a low bandwidth location, my link breaks, the link goes down, the stream goes down, everything goes to hell at that point.
Awesome. I love it. I see a whole big concept shaping here. Sam, as you guys moved from, real live activity with you showed a picture of 5 or 6 different cables that you were using, or 500 or 600 maybe. And,
yeah, probably, I think, yeah.
Have you found out that there is a benefit for you and for your production company in moving to the cloud? I mean, was there a plus to it? Obviously, it was a lot of work making that switch over, but what was the plus side to it?
Love that question. It has been really interesting. I think when I've taken this process of learning a bit about vMix in the cloud, there's been a number of surprising things that have given me quite pleasant surprises, and they're kind of like benefits that I wouldn't expect to be having through this situation. I've used vMix on high-powered physical computers for years now, doing either running shows all in one as a full-fledged software vision mixer, or using elements of vMix isolated, for example, just the instant replay system or just as a graphics engine. But when we're using vMix in an all-in-one capacity, unless you've gone to someone like Tom for your vMix PC, it's quite easy to hit those resource limits and to max out your computer, especially if you're trying to do multiple records, multiple streams, you're having multiple 1080, 60 inputs coming in. It's very easy to reach that resource limit on the physical computers we're working on. And I've actually been super surprised at the level of processing power that these servers have offered me. So I've been able to do really, really good quality encoding presets, for example, far higher than I'd probably expect to do on an all-in-one machine. Normally in workflows, we try and leave the encoding to a separate computer altogether and then leave your first machine as your production PC. So I've been really surprised at the processing power that these servers can offer, doing record, streaming, processing all in one go. That's been really great. Secondly, a really interesting point as well is that one of the other projects that isn't really an esports project, but it was a website that was doing online lessons from celebrities. So a celebrity would go, hey, I can teach you how to do one thing. I know, juggle. I'm really good at juggling. I'm going to teach you how to juggle in 10 minutes. This company elected to use vMix as their platform for creating these little 10-minute videos because they wanted to add some graphics. They were using vMix Cool to get a couple of callers together and invite guests from home. But they were going to do a lot of them, right? Only 10-minute streams, but a lot at once. So we were investigating the idea of multiple operators. And at first, the questions started being asked of, right, do we need to find people who have good internet at home, who own their own copy of vMix, who have a computer powerful enough to run vMix? That's a fairly substantial barrier to entry on finding a lot of these operators that can participate in being our online technical directors, if you like. Whereas now what we've been able to do is actually spin up multiple cloud instances of vMix that we own. So it's all fully licensed and everything like that because we're not using it on any more than you would for physical computers. It's still 1-to-1 ratio between a vMix license and a cloud server. But we're able to mirror this image. So I've created this kind of master vMix project, this master Windows Server configuration that I'm able to then just duplicate onto multiple instances. And then anyone from home, any one of my list of operators, no matter whether they're on a potato laptop or a high-powered PC, can log in and be an operator on our show and have the exact same config and setup across the board. And that's been a really interesting thing, because normally, like, you, Tom, could make me a vMix project file and you could send me over the assets, you could send me over the vMix save file, but you couldn't guarantee that I would have exactly the same setup when I open on my computer, because computers act differently. Whereas this idea of redeployability and scale has been really interesting. So that's one thing that's been really beneficial to me, that I think is going to be quite an interesting idea, that people can jump in and do different things at once, which is quite fun. And I think that the main benefit for me is, like, it is based in the cloud. I'm now going to think in the future about what feeds can be remote in terms of budgeting for an event. Does everyone need to be there on site for logistics reasons? You know, what feeds can we convert into a digital internet-based IP feed? Can we use this to enhance our broadcast, to bring in more remote feeds that aren't available online? It's just opening our eyes to a whole set of tools, which is great. Normally, you're very much thinking in SDI cable lit distances, but I think this is really, if not vMix in the cloud standalone producing a broadcast, at the minimum, I think I'll be using it as like another tool in my toolbox and my Swiss Army knife to maybe bring in to an existing offline production, add some more horsepower there, I guess. So that's been the surprising benefit to me, I think, during this process of learning.
Folks, if you're just joining us and you're wondering, what in the world? We are talking about live streaming from the cloud, but this production is not from the cloud. Don't let my background fool you. I am not in the cloud. I'm not doing this from the cloud today, but I probably could have. And so these four gentlemen have joined me today to talk about live streaming from the cloud, in the cloud, to the cloud. We're not quite sure the terminologies we're using for it yet, because it's, in some ways, it's still emerging. But Irvin, would you describe to me, as you started doing this, about your learning curve? You know, if you're coming from a position of not doing this and you're starting to do this, what was the learning curve like? Was it easy? Was it hard? Were there technologies that you already knew that you could apply? Or was it a clean slate and you had to start from scratch?
No, I have the advantage. I'm already cloud-minded for what concerns that. I think that if you never worked with virtual machines in being locally physical or being in the cloud, I think that if you want to start in the cloud and you don't have any Azure or AWS, I think I saw your name paper or something appearing recently in one of the documents, then what?
Paperspace is what we use.
Okay, Paperspace, yeah, okay. So it's the same principle, but I think you have to realize it's very virtual, it's very extended. Like in Azure, you have like 10,000 things you can click on, and click once wrongly and you have an invoice of €1,000 a month. So I would strongly advise, if you start in the cloud and you have no knowledge, whatever, let them help you for setting up those machines. As soon as they are launched and they're ready, you can do just like you always do on your private computer, well, more or less. It's like Windows. It's a Windows or a server license. So once you're in there, it's just the things you know, mostly. So from that point of view, for me, it's easy to click a few buttons. I already have a tenant, so in like 3 minutes, I think I had an NV6 machine because that was in promotion with a Windows Server license on it, with a Tesla GPU, something on it from NVIDIA, in less than 5 minutes, I think it was. And I could start installing vMix and NDI tools on it. That went all very, very smooth, very fast machine. That part is okay. Then the other thing I had troubles with is I use webcams all over the studio. I'm like you, well, not webcams, but I'm in my own studio here. DJing all every week. I mean, I'm even a server, a computer that's streaming 24/7 on some channels. So I do a lot of streaming, but from the studio is live here, and I have 5 webcams over here and 1 handycam from Sony that are switching automatically. So it's a one-man show for me. There's no one behind the vMix desk pressing this or that button. It has to run because I don't have any time to run it. So that's a bit the idea. What I struggled with is how, sorry, I was going to say a bad word, but how am I going to get my webcams into that cloud? Because that's the problem. The cloud is, once you're there, everything is sunshine. You have lots of bandwidth. You can go from this region to the other region on safe and on high speed. That's all no problem. But and also getting there is one thing that has not been mentioned. But if you work on your own Ethernet line, you have to know that Azure does that. I suppose AWS does that too. They look very sharp that you have the shortest path to their cloud. So you don't go to New York before getting into Amsterdam, but as short hops as possible. So that means again less latency. Once you're in there in the cloud, then it's all open as far as you can. It's huge amount of bandwidth all over, and it's all over fiber. Whoa, police is there. Get in. So that's the thing of the cloud. But the issue is a bit for most of us. You have to have everything in the cloud, and then it works at its best. And then you get to the situation as I'm working from one spot. I have to get, let's say, I don't need 5 cams in that situation, but I need at least 2 or 3 cams getting in. So how am I gonna get them there? So there's the technical part. Apparently you can map USB video to the system. I'd done that internally over here, but it didn't work because I was not using Windows 10 in the cloud, but 2019. So that are a bit the challenges, how to get those inputs into your vMix. And so I think the cloud is very good, vMix in the cloud, when you have a situation that you have a lot of people from different places, each with their own internet. That's the excellent situation. But if you're going to run everything from one side, you still have that problem with your bandwidth and your internet connection. So that is one of the challenges you need to get over. And the technical part of getting, you can use SRT of course, but not on a webcam. So it's kind of moves the situation a bit. What's the biggest surprise? The speed of I'm so surprised of the speed I get of that cloud machine. It's way faster than a computer. I have a generation 4 Intel over here. I just recuperate old computers for doing my streams. There's a graphics card, I think it's a 1080 Ti or something in there. So the cloud machine is way faster than mine. There's no doubt about it. The encoding takes like, it's a Tesla, I don't know, I have it listed somewhere. Encoding takes like 5 or 10% for a 1080p stream. So it's all very fast and it reacts very instantly. I'm using Remote Desktop, which I advise. I know that vMix says use TeamViewer, but in my experience, I think they changed something. TeamViewer can take up to 5 to 20% of your CPU usage in some situations. So personally, I would avoid TeamViewer for using controlling vMix, but it has some other advantages too. So the biggest surprise for me was speed and the cost, because I was aware I have a few machines running, but very slow machines. And I just clicked my system and I said, okay, I need an NV or an NC machine in Azure. I saw I didn't want to take the slowest one either, so I took an NV6 machine, which was in promo. And in promo, I have to check the price. And the promo for the machine I have set up right now is €500 a month. That sounds like a lot of money, and that's probably what most people are scared of. compared to with a physical machine. Well, after a year you can buy your physical machine, but that's wrong thinking. What I was in all the trainings I had over Azure is that most ITers and some people that are computer minded still think that machines need to be running 24/7. So the first thing they said to me, no, 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 in the evening you stop your machines. Or I said, what? You've been telling me 30 years I need to keep running those servers day and night, 365 days a year, and now you're telling me I need to stop them at the evening? Are you crazy? And that's a mindset you need to make, and it's where the gain comes in. That's one, the price. So I run the machine 2 or 3 days, not all the time, but I think I worked like 16 hours on them, and that costed me like 15 euros right now. So 15 euros for such a machine for a couple of hours, only 16 hours, is cheap. It's just cheap. There comes some storage and some bandwidth also with that, but it's just cheap. And that's the second situation where it's very pleasant. If you only need a machine for a couple of hours a week or even a day, then probably you are cheaper off and better off with a cloud machine. Besides that, you have the scalability. I think that's one of the things that not always is mentioned. If you don't have enough with one machine, you need, okay, you showed two, you need 12 vMix calls or 6 or 8 or whatever, and you want to split it up. Well, you click, install vMix, puff, 15 minutes later, well, that's a bit optimistic. 30 minutes later, you have a second machine running with the same capacity as your first machine. That's not something you can do. You have to have that machine, you have to buy it physically. So that's the virtual thing about it. And I just say a second machine, but you can create an image. There are systems like remote desktop servers and Windows for desktop do that. You can create systems that you have a golden image where everything is installed, and you just copy that image and you say, I need 100 machines right now. Click,
not 100.
and like an hour later, you have 100 machines. 99 then.
99.
But that's
excellent
the
thoughts.
software is all installed.
Excellent,
Yeah,
excellent
you
thoughts.
just have
Erwin.
a license problem, of course. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to Floris. Floris,
So,
Floris, you've got quite a well thought out setup that you described to us just a moment ago. But you didn't just wake up one day and say, "Poof, here it is. We've got it all." There obviously there was a learning process, a testing process.
Sure.
How long did it take you to get from starting to where you are today? And now that you are where you are today, do you see the next couple of steps that you want to take to even further improve your platform?
Sure. We're in a continuous testing situation because we're an innovation lab. So we're always testing out stuff. And we've been working on cloud ideas for a while now. So it, as you say, didn't just fall out of the air. We've been working on this for a while. We had obviously some smaller setups that we built before this one. For example, one of our radio stations has a stream that you can watch in their app and on their website. And we build a small switcher in the cloud that can have them switch the source feed themselves. I work for a public broadcaster, so we have a master control room that is used to work in television. So it's not something not a place you can just walk in and say, "Hey, switch my feed for me." It has protocols and triple forms and all that kind of stuff. But we built something that allows them to switch their own stream, and it's just 3 feeds coming in, a simple switcher in vMix, and a web control that does this. So we try to be iterative in everything that we do. We come up with an idea, and those ideas also don't come falling out of the air. We talk to the end users. In our case, that is people who produce television shows or web streams or directors, people from the production side. Those are our end users, and they have questions. They want to do stuff, and they come to us with their questions, and we try to figure out something to be able to help them. And often we end up with something that they didn't really ask for, but it's even a better solution than the thing they had in mind. A couple of months ago, we did a big show with, I think, 35 NDI cameras over a fiber network on the VRT grounds for our children's television channel. They were thinking, maybe 7, 8, 10 cameras if we stretch it, and we gave them 35, and they were able to produce a great show with that, which they couldn't have done without the crazy
35
ideas
cameras? Holy cow. Oh,
yeah,
man.
it was a really fun setup. The cameras that we used for that were these security style cameras you can buy on Amazon for like 25 euros, maybe 50 euros. They have a pretty good image coming out of them. And in that program, they were also used as a security camera. So we actually had to dial down the saturation of the image to make them look a little bit grimmer than they were. The image was actually too good from those cameras, and we just took a screw and punched them into the trees of the compound that we're in, and just plugged network cables in them, and had 35 of those spread over a whole trajectory that they had to film a program on. So we experiment constantly, and that's also what we do in the cloud. And I must say we wrecked all of our cloud machines up to this point in some way or another. For example, running vMix on the Paperspace machines that we use is quite challenging. And we had a call with the Paperspace people just yesterday to talk about this, because we are running into their limitations because they didn't design their virtual machines to be, video production machines. They actually use GPUs for the calculation capacity, and they want that calculation capacity for stuff like machine learning and artificial intelligence and that sort of stuff. So that's why the GPUs are there, and they use these vGPUs from NVIDIA. So it's beefy hardware. It's very good hardware, but for example, running vMix and Touch Designer alongside on one machine was problematic because they both claimed that GPU and were competing with each other, which you then saw on the CPU, because the CPU was working constantly to switch over between those two programs. So we had a conversation with them yesterday to try and improve those kinds of situations. All of our cloud machines have been blowing virtual cloud smoke. So the clouds you've seen in the sky, they came from our machine.
I love it
as well. What a mix of services, because I'm on Amazon, Irvin is on Microsoft Azure, and Floris, you're on Paperspace. Was that right? Kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we kind of bumped into them because we were looking at GPU-based systems that were able to run vMix. That was our first idea. By the way, Irvin, if you want to get your webcams into the cloud via SRT, just use vMix. You can get your USB webcams into vMix, and then vMix can convert those to SRT and push them to the cloud. Problem solved. Only 4 of them though, but you can always run a couple of vMixes to do that. So that's how we do it. Yep. The mixer I just described for the radio station, the 3 feeds that come from our master control room are pushed to the cloud via SRT. And we used a very high latency to do that, because they don't need to be, a second or even millisecond or even second accurate. It just has to come through nicely. So we gave them a delay of, I think, 2 seconds maybe, and the SRT image that comes into the cloud is just pristine. There's nothing wrong with it.
All right, gentlemen, I've got a question that I'm going to pitch out to the 4 of you, and if you give me good advice, I'll send you a check. So just let you know that up front. Irvin thinks that this is going to put me out of business as a streaming PC builder. Can you begin to define kind of the different scenarios where this is going to work really, really well in a cloud situation, and this is really, really going to work much better in a local situation?
Global pandemics are really good for cloud vMix.
I'm sorry, Sam, say that one again.
I say global pandemics are pretty good for running vMix in the cloud. I'll tell you that much. If there isn't a global pandemic, Tom, you're fine. But
All right. Well, that was a quick
So,
answer. Holy cow. Jef, you want to give that one a shot?
No.
No. Okay. Okay. And we already know what
No.
Irvin thinks. It's going to put me out of business.
I'll touch
Nah,
on it. Okay. It just depends on the event.
I
It
think
depends
your
on what
business
you're doing.
changes.
If
Sorry.
it's a corporate event, is it a sports event? Because there is a certain level about it's not economical to uphaul or backhaul all these cameras. At a certain point, it gets to be non economical. And the biggest thing is how long is the event? For a lot of our events that are week long, and we're broadcasting 10 to 15 hours a day. A true cloud workflow for everything that we do, and then we do, let's just say, a lot of those events a year, nearly the whole year round. So we're out every week, not right now, of course, but in our normal schedule, we're out every week with at least 2 or 3 different events going on, multiple courts, multiple streams going out at every one of those. If I backhauled everything and then ran cloud servers and did everything in the cloud, it would cost me a fortune more than doing it on site.
Okay.
So it just depends on how long your events are going. Now, if I was producing, say, basketball, football, something that was a short 2 or 3 hour broadcast in and out, and you have the bandwidth on site to do it, then yes, 5 cameras, 10 cameras, it doesn't matter at that point, or 35, like Flora said. It doesn't matter. You just put out as much as you can as with as much available bandwidth you have. But it's only a 2 hour, or maybe say, call it a 6 hour day of bandwidth you're using in the cloud. That's where the big difference comes from.
there's a serious answer from me as well, is that I would always just look at where the majority of my signals are. Like for all the remote broadcasting that I'm being approached to at the moment, all of these signals only exist in the cloud, right? So the obvious answer for me is to live in the cloud. When this pandemic clears up, which hopefully, not too long, then obviously I'm going to go back to using SDI cables, because they're going to be, I can see the cameras, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there. So it's going to be very much a use case. Like what it is good is that if I'm doing a show which is a mix, and we've got a physical studio, but we're looking to remote in guests, then maybe there's a way I can incorporate this technology to maybe have a vMix instance hosted in the cloud that's just responsible for vMix call, because then I can guarantee and reserve that bandwidth in the cloud just to handle vMix call. And I've just got to pull one feed down from the cloud and upload one back to manage that vMix call, which takes pressure off my local event.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Tom, I think it's a great question. This doesn't necessarily replace existing workflows for local events. It could be a great tool to use, but it's really, I think we're all here talking about it now because we're all working on shows and broadcasts where these sources exist natively on the internet anyway. So why not live there?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can see that
course,
case. I'm sorry, Flores, go ahead.
So there's the pandemic at this point, but the pandemic is not the trigger for us to do this. We just want to try and improve workflows and try and come up with new stuff to do things potentially better, but potentially even worse. Could be, for example, we have guys working at VRT who are television technicians, producers who are used to SDI cables and that kind of confidence material that if I plug in an SDI cable or screwed on actually, but if I connect an SDI cable, then I'm pretty sure that my camera is going to be connected. So the cloud is a very, very strange place for them. They don't really know how it works. They don't trust it particularly. So we try to work with them now to get them acquainted with the cloud. And it's exactly that what we're doing. It's getting acquainted with it and trying to show them what the possibilities are. And the pandemic for us is now a very good trigger to involve them in this. And you see their eyes opening when you're explaining to them what this cloud system can potentially do, because these people have a lot of imagination. They just have a very, very thorough way of doing things that they have been doing for a lot of years, with SDI cables, and getting them into the cloud is actually a very, very cool adventure.
Technology. It's proven technology. Yeah, it works for so many years. When you plug it in, it works, and that's it. So it's hard to tell people to start doing something else. And especially the cloud, it's so virtual. There are so many things you can do. It's endlessly the possibilities. But together with endless possibilities, there are endless way to screw it up. So that's also a thing. But yeah, it's like that. Just push the wrong button and everything is done. But that's also with real physical situations. But there, everybody knows for what that button serves. I hope.
This sounds like this is a
I
perfect
think
technology for me, because if I can screw anything up locally, I can definitely screw things up in the cloud. I mean, if I can make a mess
Well,
here,
all the
a whole,
think what kind of mess I can make if
I
I
would
get
not
my hand
advise
on
you
a
to go in
dozen
the cloud, Tom.
servers. Oh my gosh, a dozen
Yeah,
servers? I can
all
really screw things up
AWS,
quickly.
Google, Azure, all done when you're in the cloud.
There you go. There you
Nah,
go.
but see, yeah. But seriously, I think if you think cloud, there are a couple of situations where you automatically need to think cloud. From my point of view, that is when you have your inputs are coming from multiple locations. Then you have to think automatically cloud,
Sure.
for the reason that you have better internet connections and you're not charging your own internet, because your own internet at home is then the single point of failure. If that goes down, everything is down. So if it's in the cloud and your internet goes down, you pick your phone, you plug it into your laptop, so you have 4G on your laptop, and puff, you're off again.
There you
And
go.
maybe nobody noticed because it takes like 60 seconds. So it's more stable when it's running. You have more bandwidth available, of course, and that's why. But again, if you're gonna pull in 30 cameras from one and the same location, then you're gonna use way much more bandwidth than you need for having 1 or 2 or 3 streams out. So that's a bit of a thing you have to consider. And you probably know that I sometimes go on location streaming, like in venues and stuff, and you never know at forehand, well, not me at least, what kind of an internet will I have when I'm testing it, and what kind of an internet will I have when the place is crowded. So you don't have that. So with the cloud situation, you can minimize your bandwidth some way, and like if you're streaming to multiple locations, like what Caster and Restream does, but from the cloud, and especially if you're pulling in things from other sites. And is it will it hurt your business? No, Tom, don't be worried. A lot of people think that you're probably gonna sell less high performance machines, and you're gonna sell more smaller machines for connecting a cam or whatever. So, but you're gonna sell more services for it and more know-how, and you're gonna get more into the real part of live streaming instead of you need a graphic card, a GPU from that or this kind, which is not really an added. You need it, but it's not like. It's not like an added value to the streaming thing. It just makes your situation better, but it doesn't add any real value to the stream. So that's a bit my standpoint of it. So when to the cloud, especially when you have multiple locations, when you need scalability, when you need more than one computer, that's a thing. When you want to keep it cheap, if you're like streaming, it has been said by Floris, if you stream like 1 or 2 or 3 hours a week, why buy an expensive machine that goes broke after 3 years or 2 years, or you need to replace the card? Just take a virtual machine in the cloud at AWS or Azure or the paper thing. I forgot the name again. Just take it there and shut it down. When it's shut down, it doesn't cost you a thing. Only the storage costs you a few dollars a month for a terabyte. So it's really not that expensive if you don't use it. Just shut it down. Just remember to shut it down, because but you can auto shut it down. Mine are all set. Those who need to be shut down at 6 p.m. in the evening. They shut down anyway. So don't forget that when you're streaming over 6 p.m.
There you go.
Just
a word to the audience that we're going to take questions from you guys in the post show here in just a few minutes. I want to thank you guys for taking so much time with me this afternoon. For those of you that have an opportunity, Jef, Sam, Irvin, and Floris, to hang around for the post show and answer questions, would love to have you. If you have to run, I certainly understand that as well. I have learned so much today that I didn't already know, and I can't wait to go back and review. Because unfortunately, producing a show like this, I can't always pay attention to everything that Jeff's saying, and I'm sure I missed some good stuff. So I'm going to have to go back and listen to Irvin, listen to Flores, listen to Sam and Jeff one more time just to make sure I have it all. But I am recording this, aren't I? Oh yeah. Phew. Okay, so there we go. All right. So gentlemen, hang around if you can. If you can't,
Absolutely.
I certainly understand that, and we'll be back for the start of the post show right after this great outro. I love it. And we are back. Sam's rocking out down there, and I appreciate you guys. I tell you what, that was great, and you're under no obligation to hang around, but I know the folks out there have got 1,001 questions because I've been kind of keeping an eye on the questions as they go. So if you guys that are watching have a question that you might have posted a few minutes ago, go ahead and cut and paste that thing back up to the top so that we can grab it. But looks like we're getting a lot of shout outs. If you guys have got access to the chat, that's great. It's on easternshorebroadcasting.com. Go to the Watch Live page, and then you can pop out just the chat. easternshorebroadcasting.com, Watch Live page. And looks like we've got a pretty quiet, as opposed to normally, it looks like we have a pretty quality audience today. I mean, it's not the normal riffraff that we have on the regular Wednesday shows. We've got quality people here, like Michael and Mike and Steve and Ed, and glad to have you guys in. So Ed's got a question, and again, folks, remember these gentlemen have come on the show. And they each bring their own secret sauce. And I've kind of pledged to them that we're not going to ask them to share their secret sauce, even though some of them have shared a little bit too much, I think, but that's okay. That's their choice. But Ed is asking, can you share what are the billing models available for these cloud services? Are they a annual contract? Can you rent one by the hour? Do you rent it by the month? Do you have to have an agreement, or is it a little bit of everything?
It starts out by the
It's
hour
a
on the
little bit of
AWS
everything.
platform,
Okay.
but it really depends on how long you run it. If you do reserved instances, then you can get the prices down a little bit better. The big part is how long you want to run it. So it's by the hour, more or less.
Gotcha.
And there's three things you kind of pay for. Number one is the cost per hour of the machine you've rented from Amazon by the hour, as Jeff said. Number two is the storage that you're using. So storage is a bit different because let's say I upload 1 gigabyte of project files to the cloud. No matter whether my machine's turned on or off, you're still saving that. You're still using that physical space on Amazon's hardware. So there's a value that always runs non-stop, depending on how much stuff you're storing. And then the third cost is bandwidth. So it's charging you for bandwidth going in and bandwidth going out. Your bill will be a combination of those three things.
Okay, Sam, review those for me one more time. Let me make sure I got them.
And that bandwidth
Cool,
in and
number one.
out can be really bad.
Yeah. Number one is the cost of the physical
but-
server itself. So, on Amazon, I've chosen a server that I know is powerful enough to run vMix, and that's the by the hour cost of the server. Number
By
two
the hour.
is the storage cost by the hour. And we're talking, not a lot. Like, I think it was Irvin gave some indication of costs. I for my server that I use on Amazon, I'm paying about just under $2 an hour for the bare cost of the server. So it's really nothing crazy. Like, I agree with the sentiment that cloud broadcasting is very good value. That's my camp that I'm in. I think it's great value. So that's number one, cost of server. Number two, cost of storage. So any files that you upload and save to your cloud server for use within vMix. So we're talking things like the videos you want to play, the project file of vMix, graphics, music, all that stuff that goes into your normal project file, let's say. That's going to cause you to have a bill for that over the entire time you save it on your cloud service. And And the third thing is the bandwidth that you're using going in and out of your server, charged by the amount of bandwidth you use.
Okay, very good.
Yeah,
Very
that's
good.
about it. Yeah.
Milos is
I've
asking, how can
to-
you manage settings different for every vMix instance? And I'm not sure, is anybody running more than one instance of vMix on the same server?
Not
me.
quite on
One-
the same server.
one per
but
instance.
Different servers, different vMixes. Yeah,
Right.
exactly, Jeff, exactly. I think we're all doing the same, is that we've got one instance or one server running that has one copy of vMix running. I think that's probably the same for everyone.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think you can run multiple vMix sessions on an RDS server, I would guess, but it's not something I would advise to do.
Yeah, it's not supported by
I think
vMix.
you should keep those things apart.
Yeah, not supported
Um,
by vMix.
You can run, I know, in an RDS environment, no, you can't run. I know you can run 2 times vMix in the same user session, but I'm not sure about when it's a different user session on Windows. I don't know.
Tom, I found a pretty good question that
I
was
need to
directly related to myself in the esports land. Am I okay to give it a read and an answer?
Yes, please do. Thank you, Sam.
Cool. So the question is from Ramesh, and it says, "Hey guys, a question related to esports or gaming workflows. How do you handle any latency delays between observer or gameplay feeds, and how do you handle things like instant replays?" So that's a question very specifically designed for gaming. I'm going to actually generalize that question a bit. So the question that we can talk about is, how do we handle the different latencies of all our incoming signals, whether they're camera feeds, remote gameplay feeds, whatever. So let's talk about that. How do we handle the latency of incoming feeds? And the second question is, how do I handle things like replay feeds and the controls for that? Now, I'm investigating something really cool at the moment. I'm not very far through my research, but I'm investigating, so we just spoke about running multiple instances of vMix across multiple different servers. So completely isolated vMixes on different servers. Now I'm looking at how we can transfer video streams between them. So for example, you could have one instance of vMix on a server that's your main production PC, cutting cameras as always, maybe collecting all the sources and doing your main vision mix. And you might have a second copy of vMix running on a different Amazon server, or whatever server you want to choose, maybe just handling instant replays from a different operator. Now I'm looking at a solution of how can you throw those video feeds between the two separate instances of vMix, but try and keep it within, finding the shortest path, making sure that really they don't leave that Amazon data center in London. I actually can't give
It's
much of an
actually
answer
very
to that.
easy
It's
to
more
do.
of a theoretical question. Yeah, I knew.
It's
go on,
very
Jeff,
easy
'cause I
to
knew
do.
one of you guys could jump in.
It's
I think
NDI.
as NDI or SRT is probably the answer.
Yeah,
But Jeff,
all
go
you have to
ahead,
do
please.
is NDI for sure, because your servers, you have to make sure you're in the same. And I'll give away these secrets, but you want to make sure you use the data center that's close to you, right? So nothing's close to me in Texas except for Virginia, so I'll use Virginia's data center. But I make sure that everything I spin up is in that data center and also within the same
Yep.
subnet. So once you're in the same
Yeah.
subnet, now it does take some very tricky routing. And if
Yep.
I'll do this offline consulting with people because it's not something I can just explain quickly. But basically, you have to be able to route those IP addresses from each one of those instances in that subcenter. So that subnet has to be able to connect and everything between them. But once you do that,
Amazing.
it's an absolute beautiful thing. I also use
Yeah.
another tool from Sienna, which is NDI router and an NDI processing engine. They're a UK company over there with you guys out of London, and they are amazing about what to be able to do with that NDI once you have it in the cloud. So they're also the company that created NDI.cloud, which is basically NDI over the backhaul wise, NDI over the internet using a conversion process, and then you flip it back in the cloud. When you have those pieces in place, it's absolutely amazing. vMix is like a Swiss Army knife, right? Put
Yeah,
that
and it really
in
opens
with
the door
that.
for
You
multiple
just,
operator
you
operation,
just throw
which
it
I
up.
love.
It's absolutely,
You
absolutely.
can go a bit further
That's
than
exactly
that. So
it.
You can connect your
so that-
office network through VPN, LAN-to-LAN VPN, for reasons of security, for example, because now you're going to have lots of RDP ports open, which is not safe. So you can close all those RDP ports from the public IPs and just use a site-to-site VPN, and then you can see each other's subnets. Theoretically, you could use NDI over those nets too, but the thing is,
Yes.
your bandwidth is gonna choke because an NDI is like on 120 to 300 megabits, so you're never gonna make that over your VPN.
Yeah, I don't want to get
LAN
too
VPN.
technical for Ramesh, who
So-
asked that question. I'm sure that we can sort of go into that technical detail maybe on the comments afterwards for him. So that was awesome, Jeff. Thank you. That was a cool conversation. The second part of that question, which is more of a general thing of cloud streaming, was latency, right? So thinking about how all of our feeds have to be sort of in sync, or the latency. Now, for me, I'll give a quick answer on it. As long as each individual feed is relatively in sync, I'm never going to pretend that we can achieve a perfect synchronization across multiple remote feeds. It's just not realistic to think that way. SRT really helps with that, and I know that you guys with me have also touched on SRT. Let's not go into SRT now because it's a whole different subtopic. But just, I think the general advice would be choose the most reliable way of transmission you can. So number one, the latency is predictable, and number two, the latency is consistent. That would be sort of my short answer on how would we handle latency of remote feeds.
Consistent latency. I like it. Because I'm always late, so that would be perfect for me. Because
As long as you're always late, Tom, no issues.
I'm
man.
Always late. Chris is
consistent.
asking in the chat, are you able to use products like Stream Deck with a cloud setup? I.e., what do you use for controllers? Can you control your vMix production in the cloud with an
Absolutely.
X keys or a Stream Deck that's attached
Actually,
to the local PC?
Can.
Stream Deck, there's Sam doing it right there. I use the company Scorhoy. I use a lot of their controllers for this reason because they were IP based to start with. So it is phenomenal having the same exact unit that I can sit in the truck and use. I can have that on my desk using it. It's the same feel. The buttons do the exact same thing. And the latency between that and controlling the cloud is milliseconds. It's not even worth measuring.
Really? Wow.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
amazing. That's amazing. Oh, that's cool. Well, that's
You
not
should
the
be
big
able to
issue I was
share
thinking
USB
it was.
devices too. So
Yes, and you can share USB.
In any
There
case,
you go.
don't try USB extenders. There is this concept of a USB extender that you can extend your USB port on your physical machine at home to a USB port on the machine in the cloud. But these USB extenders hog so much CPU that especially for video production, it's quite problematic. So try and avoid USB extenders. That's my 2 cents, I think.
VPNs.
Flores just saved somebody's life right there. Okay, good job.
I saw a question, Tom, about server location, and it's kind of interesting because we've been talking about vMix from the cloud, and people forget, I think, that the cloud doesn't mean global. So, when we're thinking about where to put your server, it actually does matter where in the world you choose to host that vMix instance from. It's not a true cloud in the way that we open up YouTube and we know that wherever we travel to around the globe, YouTube is going to connect us to the most local YouTube server to us in the world. We can only install our vMix instance in one place at a time. So I'm working on some products in London. So the obvious choice for me was to host my virtual vMix server in a London data center. But as an example for you here today, Tom, if this Streaming Idiots was using vMix installed in the cloud, because you've got 3 Europeans down the bottom and the minority is up top in America with you guys, you should really think about hosting that virtual server in a European data center to get the best possible connection between the majority of your people. And that's a really interesting thing that with this, it's almost an advantage that you don't have to, I can still operate from a server in America from my house in the UK. So I can still remote into these servers, but you have the ability to actually sit your virtual machine anywhere in the world where your guests are. And that's kind of a cool thing we haven't touched on, the ability to do that. To move your computer that you might have in my bedroom or across from me now, I can put that same computer in Brazil if I'm hosting a Brazil live stream with guests there and Brazil has server infrastructure I can use. So that's kind of an interesting one. That was a cool question I picked up earlier.
So the
In
ultimate
terms of
portable PC.
interconnectivity between virtual machines, that's really interesting as well. We have a setup where we have a 10 gig private network setup where several virtual machines are connected to, so you can easily exchange, big loads of NDI video in between those machines in that virtual network, which is something you would need to do on fiber if you try to do it locally, in somewhat of a scale. And in the cloud, you just you switch on private network thing, and it's good to go. So that kind of connectivity is very nice to use as well.
Awesome. I'm amazed. I'm with Tommy and the rest of the fanboys just going, wow, this is cool. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to try it. I know I'm going to do something stupid and accidentally, provision 12 servers in different parts across the world accidentally, but that's okay. It would be a ton of fun.
I think there's maybe one thing, because I heard that AWS invoices for both in and outbound traffic, which is not the
Correct, it
case
does,
with
yeah.
Azure. Azure only invoices between regions and outgoing traffic. So if you have loads of traffic coming in, that's all free. It's only when it goes back out of their cloud that you're going to pay for it, which can make a price difference if you have a lot of external inputs coming in.
And we're not talking about this replacing a CDN. I mean, you're still streaming to a CDN somewhere that's going to distribute your feed to your viewing audience. This is just
Maybe.
a matter of moving your
Not
production.
necessarily.
Oh, Jeff disagrees.
Yeah,
oh,
no. If the
necessarily.
clientele
Yeah.
if you're doing 500, 1,000 people, I spin up a Wowza instance and just go straight to my Wowza server.
Is that right? You don't
Yeah.
even you are your own CDN.
Yeah.
Of course.
Especially
can
for
be,
corporate
yeah.
events and things like that. Absolutely.
But he's a Texan.
Now, if I
mean,
have
that's
people
what
spread
Texans
out
do.
everywhere,
Texans do their own thing. They don't want to rely on anybody else. I get it.
that's right.
I get it.
That's right.
I love it. So is anybody else their own CDN for this kind of stuff? Sam, Irvin, Flores?
Not so much. A lot of my stuff lives on platforms like Twitch anyway, publicly, so not so much for me.
Right. Because Twitch is where your audience is. So you're gonna
Gaming audience, exactly.
You're gonna go where they are. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on your audience. I just stream to the classical social media networks and the mixers and the Twitch and whatever. But if you, I think for corporate events, I think if they need security, because a lot of corporates don't trust the servers that are like us. I don't know what is it, Wowza, or what is it? Different servers. So they really want to
Wowza.
do everything on their own gear. Then you don't have any choice but installing a media server or whatever server in the cloud. And it's a thing. If they just need that for one or a couple of shows in the year, you just fire those machines up and configure them, and you're up and running. It doesn't cost. You don't need to buy that many machines to do that. It just fire them up, configure them, copy them, and you're off.
Oh, Tom, there's one thing I could give as and maybe the other guys can agree with me or not. When working on the cloud, what is the number one thing you need in your workspace? Besides the internet, besides keyboard and mouse, what I've found, bigger monitors and lots of them. Because
Yeah,
just like when you have
100%.
multiple machines, I have two, actually right now I have two 32-inch widescreens in front of me, and I've got like 12 windows open. And it happens exactly the same way when you're working with multiple instances. You don't want to have to, you can't just alt tab between them quickly. So I might have 4 different machines stuck on a 4K monitor at a 1080 resolution so that I can see everything and be able to see what each instance is doing and what each machine is doing. Monitors, unfortunately, become just a big space hog.
Interesting. So in some ways you've made your personal workspace. You need more workspace to do it in the cloud.
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah. Huh. Well, it won't be long before we'll be able to get virtual wallpaper and just run it over our walls, and that'll become our monitors.
Yeah,
And,
can't wait.
Yep. It's not far. Home Depot is working on that, so we'll see what happens. Well, gentlemen, I don't want to take any more of your time. You've been very generous with us today, sharing your thoughts and your ideas, and maybe sharing a little too much. I don't know. And I know the audience is out there.
You're talking about me, Tom.
How did you know? How did you know? But I hung on every word.
It's a bad habit from us as being part of an innovation department. We live by sharing, and I know that you guys have to run a business, and that it's a different standpoint, but we do this simply for the sharing of it. We try to build a community around this as well, and we have a video snack bar at VRT, and it's an open division. Anyone can walk in, anyone can come in with an idea. Anyone who has a need for an explanation of something, we will give it gladly. Not for free. I get paid at the end of the day, but we have a different business model. We don't have to make money selling, machines or vMix licenses. With all due respect, it's a very good business model, but that's not what we do. So that's why I tend to, overshare the way we do things at VRT and at Video Snack Bar. But the sharing is a big part of the innovation, I think. That and failing a lot and learning from failure. That's key, I think.
That's my man right there.
Thank you for that sharing.
That's my man right there. We learn more from our failures. Absolutely. Well, any closing thoughts, gentlemen, before we end this broadcast? I really appreciate you guys. Nope.
I think the next thing. I think the next thing we need to do.
Jeff, you go.
Oh, it's been great. I think the next thing we need to all do is definitely keep the conversation moving forward. And I agree with you, Floris, about yes, we do need to share some information, but there are certain pieces that I would rather keep close to my vest. But in the future, it's going to be more so of we're not talking about this remote thing as a out of the place type remote operations. It's going to be an everyday thing. I've been doing it every day for 2 years, but in our business, we've been working like that. But distributed production and distributed people, that's where it's not just about just getting it as a remote or REMI, as we call it here in the States. It's not going to be about that. It's about being able to place your operators here, there. And this guy over here might be doing just camera. This guy over here might be doing replay. This guy over here might be doing graphics. But I could get the best of the best in and have them consistent on any production, no matter where they are. They're just logging in. That's it.
I love it.
Love that. And I think from my side of it, I think the challenge is, in a way, if I think about when I'm building a physical gallery, right? When I'm building a flyaway gallery or a temporary gallery at an event, tabletops, we don't have sometimes you don't always have the luxury of an OB truck. So often the most difficult thing is giving every operator you have working on the broadcast the monitoring they need. So how many screens they need, what multi-views does this person need, what multi-view does that person need, what do they need to hear in their headphones in order to do their job. The replay guy needs to see this or hear this. So that's a problem that exists in physical events when you're building out a gallery layout. That also multiplies, exactly as Jeff said, when you're trying to build an online cloud broadcasting solution that includes multiple people, and that I think is where it's going to get tricky. I think Jeff's a step above all of us here in terms of spreading out the operators, but if I think about our level of conversation, which is starting with vMix as an all-in-one solution for one operator, there are absolutely times, especially in sort of my world of esports broadcasting, playing on the team of sports broadcasting, where there's way too much for one person to do. That is going to be a bigger challenge, I think, to separate those parts out, mainly because vMix in itself is not the best tool for multiple operators. In fact, it's not that great a tool for multiple people trying to use the same version or the same instance of vMix. But that amplifies when you've got to stream multi-views, and you've got to stream intercom communications, and you've got to stream all the video signals. That's going to be the main challenge for me. So I think that's my takeaway, is that is probably the next stage of this idea of cloud broadcasting. The making a show bit, relatively straightforward, but it's the sharing of workloads and giving everyone that information you need to see and hear what they're doing could be the challenge, I think.
Very good. Thank you, Sam.
Also, thanks for having me.
But of course. I've put up a QR code here that leads you to an article on the vMix, in the vMix knowledge base, that talks about some of the things you need to know from a vMix perspective on an Amazon server. vMix is not officially supporting an instance of vMix on a server anywhere. So this is all unofficial. But as you can tell, those of you that are watching, these guys are pushing the limits of vMix, all over the place. And and I think I don't know that I'm a good prognosticator, but I'm beginning to wonder if this hasn't made Martin Sinclair, get it, Sinclair, he's my cousin, or at least that's what I claim. We're 19th cousins. But I wonder if this isn't making Martin Sinclair think about a vMix cloud offering, something that would be tuned into multiple operators, something that would be tuned into maybe living on more than one server, and somehow having those.
You could shut down a lot of existing services out there if you did do that.
Yep. And
it would be good.
The pricing of vMix to start with is outrageously low. So even if he tripled the price of his Pro, I think he could still have something that would be a unique offering in the industry.
This is my switcher on my iPad. This is the switcher that we use to control the cloud machine that has vMix running. So the control is completely pulled away from the vMix program itself. We just use the vMix API to use that switcher on an iPad with a guy somewhere sitting, wherever, controlling the virtual machine, and it is very snappy. I mean, it's not heavy information. I mean, OSC is just so light. It's just a text protocol that works really, really snappy. And cutting a show on your tablet while you have a confidence view coming back over vMix call is just epic.
Awesome. Gentlemen, I don't want to take any more of your time. Thank you. You guys have been tremendous. And those of you that are watching us, thank you. If you have an opportunity to do business with any of these guys as a way of saying thank you, by all means, don't pick their brains for free. If you want something from them, expect that you're going to hire them. Let's respect their profession. So, guys, have great rest of weeks. Thank you for joining me. We're going to flip over to the post show, and we will see you. To the post show. We're going to flip over to the count out.
Post show.
There's a post show.
There's one more post show.
Post show, right?
So this is the pre-post show, actually.
This is the pre-post show. That's right. That's right.
That's clear.
Oh
That's
boy,
clear.
this virus is contagious.
Thanks, Tom.
Let's do
Appreciate it.
virtual for me.
All right, guys. We'll catch you later. Thank you so much.
All right, bye-bye.